Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mind Over Mountain with me, Cheryl Strayed. This week, my guest is Abby Wambach. She is a soccer icon and legend, World Cup champion, two-time Olympic gold medalist, and so many other things. In our conversation, she shares some stories about her most dazzling moments as an athlete and some of her most disappointing ones as well. In the 10 years since Abby's retirement, she has gone on to do all kinds of interesting things as an advocate, an author, and of course, a podcast host. She has two. Welcome to the Party about women's sports and We Can Do Hard Things, which she hosts with her wife, Glennon Doyle, and Amanda Doyle. In our conversation, we talk about hard things and fun things and good things. We talk about grief and marriage and sobriety and how to load the dishwasher. We also answer a Dear Sugar letter. Let's listen to our conversation.
Cheryl Strayed.
Abby Wambach. I am so excited to have you on Mind Over Mountain. Welcome. Thank you for saying yes.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Anytime you call, it's always an immediate yes.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel the same way about you, dear heart. I feel like, we are connected somehow. I've been your fan for a zillion years. And we don't even know each other in real life all that well. And yet, do you know what I mean about that connection? Like,
For
through
sure.
I've been on your podcast a few times. We've crossed paths. We hung out a bit in Portland backstage when you were here with Amanda and Glennon.
Yeah.
And so there is that kindredness. And I think I want to start really with being your fan, because you really are, like, no joke. I have known this always, watching you play soccer over the years, watching you, soar as a human in your retirement. But I did a little review before our conversation. I was like, let's look at all these, like, soccer, achievements you've made.
Okay.
And it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. You're a two-time gold medalist,
Yeah.
a World Cup champion, and you've, like, scored a bajillion. You were the lead scorer in many of those World Cups. Mm-hmm. You were the all-time international soccer scoring for most goals in 2013. You achieved that. You held it until 2020. And
Yes.
that's like a whole bunch of stuff. You were 6 times the winner of the U.S. Soccer Athlete of the Year. And the list goes on. And it all adds up to pretty fucking dazzling. And the question I had, me, I'm like, my little emotional Dear Sugar heart is, all of that stuff is big and beautiful and out here and, so clearly awesome. But I'm curious about you and what's inside of you. Like, what dazzles you when you think about your career as a forward, when you think about your years in soccer? What is the moment where you were like, this is the high mark for me. This is the top of the mountain for me?
I love the way you're framing this question. What dazzles you? When I look back at my career, it was a long run, and I was 35 years old when I retired, and my body felt the wear and tear of 30 years doing this thing, and pounding and pressure and intensity. I consistently showed up every day committing to wanting to get a little bit better. And I was relentless in that pursuit. And I'm very dazzled at myself for maintaining that pursuit. And in my retirement, I call it, I've needed to recover from professional sports in some ways, because that kind of commitment, I think, changes the way that you look at the world in some ways, and the way that you experience the world. And I don't mean to seem like or sound hyperbolic, but it's true. It was true for me that even though people always said that I was this humble person and I was very selfless and I was a servant leader and a captain, and I love that for them, they weren't inside my body or my brain or my spirit. And because of this requirement to both show up as your best self every day, and and I think this is probably why we are a little bit kindred spirits, Cheryl, because I always had something in the back of my mind telling me that I didn't want to just be a soccer player or a soccer star. And so in this recovery from professional sport, I notice there's a lot of parts of me that really were good at being a professional athlete. I'm a rule follower. I am competitive. I was always striving to get a little bit better. I was team oriented. But if you notice, just in me explaining this to you, there was a lot of I involved. So an immense amount of self-absorption or self-consciousness is required in some ways to be a professional athlete, because every single thing you do affects the outcomes of the way you feel, which affects the outcomes of the way you train, which affects the outcomes of the way you play in games, which affects the outcomes of the statistics that you can get during those games. And it felt, truly, it felt very lonely. And I think that climbing the mountains that I climbed in order to win the things that I won and get the awards and the accolades, I really thought that when I became the world record holder for most goals, international goals between men or women, I really thought like, oh, this is going to be the thing, right? This will be, or when I would win a gold medal and I would stand on the podium and however long it would take for the national anthem to play, I would step off that podium with a gold medal wrapped around my neck. And my very first thought, Cheryl, was I want to do that again. Yeah. I gave myself the time of the national anthem to really celebrate the years, months, and endless days of hard work. And you can just keep doing that forever, right? Like you can just keep giving yourself another mountain.
And that's also a way of maybe like not really staying in the moment. Like or literally you would just give yourself one moment and then it's never enough. Like this mountain was really hard. I spent years getting here and now I have to do the next one immediately.
Yeah.
Which could be kind of inspiring and cool. It could be really self-destructive too.
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
I think the story of my life is and both. Like there were so many amazing things about playing sport that I would never change. And there was also so many things that I definitely made decisions that made me self-destruct or made me not. There's a lot of the big push of why I played for so long, and why I think won so much is because I'm the youngest of 7 kids and I wanted the attention of my mother. Like if we could just break it down to something very simple, that is like kind of the crux of it. Like, Mom, notice me.
Yeah. I mean, it's like not even probably at the beginning, it wasn't even a conscious thing. It's like a primal thing. You're like the puppy trying to fight the way to the last nipple, and you have to push another puppy out of the way to get it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think just throughout the years of my career and throughout the years of now my retirement, I get to look back and wonder. And some days I wonder in an incredible amount of awe for myself. Because I do know how extraordinary and how hard I did work to get the things that I did. And I'm like, good job. You worked really hard. And also, I really want to set myself up for the rest of my life to not have to negotiate with myself on a daily basis for my self-worth. So as to equate my self-worth with accolades or accomplishment. Glenn and I are in a consistent negotiation around defining what enough is. And I think that that's a really healthy exercise for somebody like me who, when given the option, can and will take the highest mountain, climb it, be the best at it, but not feel very fulfilled.
Yeah. And it's an impossible conundrum because, as you say so well, to be a competitor, for many of us, no matter what we're doing, whether it be writing or playing soccer or being the best accountant, I mean, you have to be humble and show up and do the work and stick with it. And, you have to do all of those things. And very often the way that success is measured is not about, it's not about that simple thing of just showing up. It's about, and then we won. And then we were on the podium and we had the gold. And then the crowd went wild, right? And so, especially in sports, which there is this, like, it's not just an internal experience, right? There is this whole world that is cheering with you when you win and either angry or sad when you lose. And so, it sounds to me you began from this place of wanting validation.
Yes.
And then how do you extract yourself psychologically from that? You say you've been in recovery in some ways.
Yeah. Therapy.
Therapy
is helping. Therapy is helping. And, I think it's really interesting because it is it's like a communal experience to be an athlete or an entertainer in any way, right? Or a writer, right?
Yeah.
Like you are essentially creating something out of nothing, and then you are giving this thing out into the world, hoping to shape the world in a way that feels warm to you, right? That feels like you're shaping the world, like you left your mark in some way. But I think if you separate from the ego a little bit, right? That is where I get my best work done. Because when I'm making decisions out of my spirit and out of my energy system, I often make the right long-term decision. Sometimes I want the quick fix. It's the addict in me. I want the quick fix. I want to achieve the thing right away. But when I have the awareness to recognize when my ego jumps in and wants to take the wheel, I don't know if you've ever heard of internal family systems, but that's the kind of therapy that I've been in. So I do a lot of parts work, and it's been really helpful, especially because of my experience of being on teams. I literally feel like I have a team of people in my body, and my parts are these little teammates of mine.
Right.
And so when I can notice my ego coming online, I have to really work hard to slow down, because I've had a lot of positive affirmation. I've gotten a lot of really interesting and cool things done and experienced really cool things through the lens and with the ego of myself driving the bus in some ways. But that wasn't the thing that really fulfilled me, right? And so now, the last couple of years, I've been doing quite a bit of work with the darker parts of myself, the parts that I don't usually let come to the surface. And that's been really good, because as an athlete, you are trained over and over and over again to be presented with a problem and then solve it. But before you can solve a problem, there has to be a deep-seated belief system inside of you, whether you want to call it agency or faith or whatnot, that's going to get you to the other side to be able to actually solve this specific problem. And I feel the thing that I can now do is I can ask myself the question, is this my problem to solve?
Yeah.
Right? Because as an athlete and as a high performing athlete, I did feel a little immortal at parts of my career where I thought I could do everything. And I thought I was basically not a god, but I felt like I was immortal in a way.
And what's interesting, the way you describe your achievement, when you were talking earlier, you were like, I showed up every day. I worked really hard for years, which is about humility. Those two things seem opposite, humility and audacity. And I'm curious what you have to say about, like, what role do those things play in your life and your athletic career?
I think if you can figure out the balance between those two, you're going to have a great experience down there.
Yeah.
I was always humbled. Number one, because sport is the most humbling thing in the world. Like, you are basically getting it wrong way more than you ever get it right, especially on the soccer field.
Okay, I might argue with you there about, I mean, I'm a writer. Where I'm in like the sub basement on a regular basis. So,
Yeah.
okay.
You have to do a little bit different digging. Like your digging is deep into your soul.
Yeah.
But I do think that this idea of audacity and humble and humility is fascinating to think about, because in order to be one of the best athletes in the world, which is what I think I was.
Which is definitively what you were and are.
Yeah.
Why do we have to put it in the past tense? You know, you're a legend and an icon for sure.
Yeah, thank you. But my knees would beg to differ. I think that the best players in the world are the ones that are able to really embrace both the audacity and the humility.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. At the end of the game, right, when the game is on the line, you can energetically feel the athlete who wants the ball, who is saying, I can do this. Give me the ball, whatever it might be. And I think that there is a sort of thing that is almost like a lost art nowadays, where people, I think, are too fearful of vulnerability to like plant a flag in the sand and say, I care about this.
Right. I want the ball.
I want this. I want this so much that I am willing to put myself in a position to be completely annihilated if I don't get it.
Right.
Publicly. There's something about, when I watch Steph Curry, or when we've watched, Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi and Alex Morgan, like some of these players who were able to do things that felt quote unquote superhuman.
Right.
And I think in some ways it was, but I also think there was part of our spirit that had to throw caution to the wind and say, you know what, like for better or for worse, this is kind of what it takes. And to take it another woo-woo level, if you are an athlete or a person in the world that actually can truly tap into the energy system and the energy field of a stadium like I played in, and you can actually embody it and allow that energy moving through you, I believe I know for a fact that I wasn't as good as I played. It was a connection and a communal experience that I was actually embracing. And I didn't figure that out when I was playing, by the way. I've only figured that out in my retirement, that because I asked a question, how the hell did I score some of these goals?
Right. How did you, it's almost like you were channeling
exactly
the excitement. But this is one of my big fears about team sports. I mean, not that there's any danger of me becoming a champion soccer player or ever was, but honestly, like, all through my life, I was in track and cross country, and I've always done sports that are really just like me, myself, and I.
Sure.
And part of it is because the idea of being on a team, okay, so layer one, the potential to disappoint my teammates by not doing well. And then layer two, the fans. And so to me, it was fascinating. You're saying like these people around you actually made you a stronger athlete. Did you ever feel the opposite, that you were like, I've disappointed them? I haven't, like, when you turn and say, look, mom's not looking, you feel invalidated.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that experience where the crowd is not cheering for you and it's working the
100%.
opposite way?
Here's a few examples. I mean, I didn't win every world championship I played in. I won a bunch, but not every one. And those experiences, I think, are almost as important as the ones that you win are. And the reason why is because those games, like in 2011, we played in the final against Japan, ended up losing in penalty kicks in the World Cup final in 2011. And I had scored the game winner. So we were winning 2-1, and the game went into overtime because Homari Sawa from Japan scored on a corner kick. And I was about to win the golden ball. I was about to win the golden boot. I was about to basically win player of the year. This is 2011.
All the gold things.
All of the things. I was about, I was like minutes away, and then they equalize. So we go into overtime and they win in penalties. And this is the same tournament that I had scored that crazy, incredibly late goal against Brazil,
right?
That a lot of people kind of remember where they were at during that game watching. And I thought, oh, of course, this is my tournament. I look at what is happening here, of course. And then when we didn't win that game, I remember feeling so low and so depressed and so grief-stricken, because it was this thing that I had anticipated, and I believed so deeply that it was going to be ours. We were so close, but I allowed myself to feel so much pain. I gave myself the space, and I almost required it. Right. So even when you do well or you don't do well, like all of those things are very important in order to continue to grow and become the next version of yourself, right? And so we then go into the 2012 Olympics and we win Olympic gold. I score a bunch of goals. It's an incredible thing that happens. And then I win Player of the Year, FIFA Player of the Year. So I think that, like, yeah, there are times where I feel like I've let people down, but I make sure to be accountable and take responsibility for those moments where I felt like I let people down, and unapologetically so. I was just like in the locker room, in the huddle, I'm like, guys, this is my fault. And then everybody's like, no. You know,
it wasn't. And Abby, but I think the powerful thing you're saying here is this: the moral of this story is our failures absolutely contribute to our victories. The great things that happened in 2012 are built on the not so great things that happened in 2011. And this is true in sport and in life.
Yeah. It's actually probably the thing that pisses my wife off the most about me is that I have a tendency to reframe and positively spin negative circumstances that come across our door. And that drives her bonkers. She's like, can I just be sad about this for a minute? And I'm like, oh, absolutely be sad, but like, we're going to be fine and we're going to figure this out. And so there is some maladaptive things that I have needed to not unlearn, but I have needed to reframe for a retirement person, a person that is not in sport. I do think that there are a lot of things that can apply from sport behavior, sport mentality, sports psychology into real life. But I also think that the ability to try to live in a normal body, in like a non-superhuman psychology. I can understand why Glennon would be annoyed, because, you know, sometimes you just don't need a solution, right? You just want to freaking vent about something. And so I think it always makes me giggle, because like my instinct is to be like, problem's here, gonna solve it. Rather than just like let it breathe and live a life. Because the truth is, I'm uncomfortable with her uncomfort.
Yeah.
If I were to be really honest.
I think that's part of being a partner too, is it's actually worse to see your partner struggling or in pain, because you're like, I love you so much. I can't bear this. I want to fix it. I'm the same. I mean, I'm the same way. Maybe though, part of this is from another aspect that we are the same. You know, I know we're talking about deep emotional things, but I do have to pause for a moment to remember a reel that I think Glennon put up on Instagram, gosh, probably 5 or 6 years ago, that is imprinted in my mind that I am forever Team Abby in this regard. The dishwasher and the way that Glennon loads that dishwasher.
Yeah, it's tough.
So, I mean, if there were like, if loading the dishwasher incorrectly was a crime, she'd have a life sentence, right?
Yes.
And I was beside myself. I think you described it as a kerfluffle or something. I was just like, or cook.
Yeah.
Okay, I added an L there. But she does it wrong. Has that remained the same in your relationship? Have you guys fixed that? Did you guys do therapy or?
It's a good question. I think some of the things that have, in year 2, we were having a bit of a power struggle of our marriage, like who was going to win out the power struggle of it. And we got through that time. And now we're coming up on year 10.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that we learn the most every single day, and we relearn the most every single day, is that for the most part, we are who we are. We're going to have our tendencies and the way that we respond to the world, to life, because of our own personal families that we were raised in and the way our brains formed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have learned that there are some things that are just not worth it, right? So what I do, and this may be wrong, I don't know, you tell me, Cheryl, but what I do now is after dinner.
Yeah, I know where you're going. When
the dishes are essentially done, there's another thing I'm going to add to the dishwasher list, and it's rinsing the sink down. Rinsing all the food on the bottom of the sink.
We are connected. We are sisters.
It's a tough life where I'm living over here, and so I'll just go back into the dishwasher when everybody's left the kitchen. I will rearrange it the way that I think it should be rearranged. Oh my gosh. And then lo and behold, we don't even have to do a load.
Because there's so much more room. Me too. My husband cleans up the kitchen, does all the dishes. Then I go rinse the sink, redo the dishwasher. I'm not kidding you. It's the same situation here.
Yeah. But I can't hover because hovering is upsetting to her. So I have to so we've learned a lot about each other. And we actually did this really cool interview many, many years ago with, Dr. Orna Golnarek. She has that
oh my gosh. I'm obsessed with her.
Couples therapy. She's the best.
She's amazing.
She said one of the most difficult things in marriages or relationships is negotiating otherness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's so true for me, that when somebody doesn't do something that I want or the way in which I want them to do it, what I'm really upset about is that we are not one thing. What I'm really upset about is that we are different.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm mad about. It's not the thing. It's like how I want us to be the same in some dimension, in some way. I don't know. It's funny though.
But you are, I think that's true. And I bet that you are the same in a lot of dimensions, I'm going to guess. That there is that sense, like, I've heard you guys tell your love story, and there was this, from the beginning, like this almost magical connection. Like you look at each other and you think, hello, you.
Yes.
And there is something really powerful about that. That is, I think, about sameness. And like, how boring would it be, honestly? If, it
would be so boring. I'm so glad that there are things that we will probably continue to bicker about until the day we're both dead.
We need the dishwasher renegades among us, even if they drive us crazy, Abby. Listen, I have a million more questions for you. I also am mindful that this is kind of a cool juncture to read this Dear Sugar letter to you, because it's about relationships. Great. Okay? Can I read it to you?
Of course.
Here it is. Dear Sugar, I'm in a relationship with a woman who I've been with for about 5 years. I'm also a woman, and both of us are in our early 30s. My partner is cool as hell, super kind, wicked funny, and a fantastic cook. No comment on how she loads the dishwasher, though. No. I've loved making a home with her in our tiny house and our blended family of 3 cats. Yes, we are proud lesbian cat ladies.
Yes.
All right. Me too. But dogs and cats, I've got everything here.
Okay.
But here I am writing to you as tears come into my eyes, because lately we've been talking about getting married. And even though I love my partner, there's a part of me that cannot stop asking myself if she's the one I'm meant to be with for the rest of my life. We've gone to therapy off and on, and it's been helpful. The issues are the usual stuff: how to communicate and listen better, how to make the other one feel more loved and supported, and so on. I feel like we're both good partners to each other, so my concerns aren't about anything specific that's wrong with her or our relationship. They're about the general feeling I have that I'm not sure if I feel the same level of commitment to her that she does to me. We're a team, but I feel like maybe I hold part of myself back in a way that she does not. What's most confusing to me is I cannot tell if my doubts are coming from the fact that this isn't the right relationship for me, even though I do honestly love her, or if my doubts are coming from some aspect of my psyche that fears commitment or intimacy, and so self-sabotages when things get marriage discussion serious. One of my fears is that if I trust this hesitation I have deep inside myself and break up with my partner, then I'll later realize I was just being a coward at love. And the result is I've lost this incredible woman I was meant to be with. On the other hand, what if my feelings are telling me something real? What if I marry her and later regret not listening to myself when I questioned if this was what I truly wanted? I know I'm asking you an impossible question, Sugar, but will you please give me some advice? How do we know what we really want in a romantic relationship when what we want is two opposite things? Are these kinds of doubts always present in love? What's the right or brave thing to do when your mind is divided? Signed, Torn in Two.
Well, I have a couple of initial feelings because I was really trying to embody the words. And something my wife would say, and it says a lot, is even though the decision is hard, most of the time, we already know what we're supposed to do.
Yep.
We're just scared to do it for whatever reason.
Yep.
And I think that the option, do I stay or do I go? I don't think that the psychological approach to making a decision out of fear is the way to go. I think trying to think about it, making this decision out of love. So if you want to have love be at the center, try not to me, I wouldn't get involved with the part of yourself necessarily that is self-sabotaging. Because if there is a part that's self-sabotaging, that part's been there all along. That part is a protector part. It's protecting you from some wound that you've had in your life. And I respect those parts. But sometimes those parts are not necessarily always meant to be trusted, right? So the way we work in IFS language is the capital S self, the one that is open and sees and can look out into the conference room of all of your parts and say, oh yeah, you guys are all doing so well for me inside. Like, good job. And being a person who did get divorced from my first marriage,
me too,
who did get married when I knew that I shouldn't. I had a deep tug happening.
Me too.
I had a deep tug happening. And for this writer, you just have to figure out if that deep tug is what Cheryl and I also experienced, or if it is just fear-based. What do you think, Cheryl?
Yeah. I mean, I love this idea of answering this question torn into from a place of love rather than fear. And for me, one of the first steps to take in the direction of love and away from fear is to tell the truth. Is to tell the truth. So to say to your partner, and this is terrifying, and it might end your relationship, to say to your partner what you said to us: you are amazing, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, and I treasure and cherish our relationship. And I don't know that I feel the same level of commitment to you as you do to me. And I'm not ready to get married right now because I have doubts. So beginning with the truth, loving kindness and truth. And I do think that the truth is the most loving thing we can ever, give our partners, even if the truth hurts. And I mean that, of all the regrets I have about that first marriage, it goes back to that very beginning, because I did marry a really wonderful, beautiful man who I sincerely loved. And I wish that I had just been brave enough to say, I actually don't think we should get married. We should just love each other right now, And that relationship would have happened as it did and played out and ended as it did, but without the deeper trauma and drama of divorce. And so I think beginning with the truth is a loving act. And also I will say, I say this all the time, so I very much agree with Glennon that, that we often know what we want and we're afraid to know it. And I see this everywhere in this letter, that deep down inside you do actually have reservations, that you have been with this woman for 5 years that were big growth years, from like your late 20s into if you're just, in your early 30s now. And maybe this relationship was meant to teach you something that you're ready to move on from now. And that is so painful. I know as I wrote a sugar, you have to be brave enough to break your own heart. And sometimes that means ending relationships that you love.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that because I think it's important to say, especially about marriage, that it's not a decision you take lightly. Like, to me, it's got to be a hell yes or it's a no, right? And also we sometimes, I think, get very bogged down in our tomorrows that we forget to be in the todays. Yes, we are adults. We have to see the trajectory of our lives and see the pasts of our decisions and feel the consequences of those prior decisions so that we can make more informed, better decisions going forward. But we also can't predict the future. We don't necessarily always know what decisions are going to be the best or the worst,
right? Until
we make them.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that there are wrong decisions. Like, even though my first marriage didn't end well, I wouldn't change it because it landed me in the exact place that I needed to be. A lot of times, and you know this, Cheryl, like we keep needing to learn the same lesson over and over again until we finally like surrender to it and say, okay, tell me what you need to know, lesson. And I finally am going to listen this time. So I don't know if there are any wrong moves. Like, I don't believe in right and wrong or good and bad. I just think that it's like we just are trying our best and with the most amount of information, the most informed information we can make. But I think that what you're saying too, Cheryl, is so right on, that there's a lot of doubt in this letter, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not being sure.
I just used that phrase regret about my first marriage. And as soon as I said it, I was like, that's not what I mean. Because I agree with you. Like, I really genuinely feel like I learned so much from that experience. And, we can't go back in time. I can't be the wise self I am now, or the wiser self I am now.
Yeah, wiser,
at that younger, I still have a lot of work to do, trust me. But then, so now I've been with my husband, Brian. I mean, we've been together for like 6,000 years now, or actually 30. And I'm shocked. I mean, I'm shocked that it's worked out this long and this well. And I love him like crazy. And we sometimes struggle and we fight over the dishwasher and, all of these things happen. But never once have I felt like I shouldn't be with him.
Yeah.
There is this grounding wire I have inside myself that, like, whatever the trouble, it's worth it because he does feel like the one to me, and I think that that's worth listening to. And I think part of the way I was able to get that and find that and feel that in myself is that first marriage, that experience. What about you and Glennon?
Yeah. So there's 0 seconds that I have known this woman that I have thought, we shouldn't be together. Like, she has completely changed my life. Is the best decision I ever made. And I say to her on a weekly basis, because I do believe it's kind of true. I'm like, I cannot believe that you married me. I feel so lucky. And, we have gone through we've built a life together. There's something so sweet. When you get through some of the power struggles that every marriage is bound to be having, when you get through some deaths that happen, and when you get through some crises, and you really start to build a thing that shapes into this like life that you're collectively doing it together as a group, you, me, our kids, like, we're all partaking in this building of this thing. And I take extraordinary pride in that. And, you know, there is a reason why when we first met, it was like lightning struck. And when I tell you, this is not an exaggeration, like I felt like I would have died if I didn't marry her. Like there's something about that time that it was like, I was so desperate to be attached to her. I like wanted to crawl. And what I also have learned in my therapy is, you know, codependency and enmeshment and all the things, that one of the greatest gifts of my life with Glennon has been that the reason really why I married her is because she is the very first person that I know that won't leave and allows me the space to become and access and express parts of myself that I've never been able to express before. Fear, anxiety, anger, like these shadow parts of me that I've never let anybody else see. And so there's this new, this book I'm reading called Middle Passage. And the idea is as we go through middle life, we have to basically kill off our younger selves, because those younger selves were just basically through the lens of our parents. The person that we built ourselves into was through the perception of what we felt like our parents wanted us to be.
Right.
And the second half of our life is getting to kind of rewrite that story and to rewrite that narrative and to kind of re-embody ourselves in the person that we were always meant to be from the beginning, not the person we thought we should be, but the person that we actually are. And I'm able to do that with Glennon, and I think she's able to do that with me. And it's so funny because we're so different. Like we are very different. Like even just like things that we enjoy doing enough of the same things, but we really enjoy doing a lot of different things. She really loves to read and really loves to write. And I really love she creates and I recreate.
Yeah. You really love to watch sports together, or you love to watch sports and then, you know, send big videos of Glennon.
Yes, I really love it. And
learning about sports.
I've learned that the way I can get Glennon to sit down and watch a sporting match is I've got to dive deep into the humanitarian story that is the golden nugget of humanity inside of the sport. So, you know, a woman basketball player, she is now just coming back from her injury, and I got to rope her into the humanity of the athletes.
Yeah, no, that's what this whole podcast is about, you know, because like I'm like not a sports expert at all. And in fact, I want to say thank you, Abby, because you explaining to Glennon and then Glennon making a video explaining to us about how soccer is played has basically been my main education in the sport. There's one where she's like using forks and they're, you know,
the offside rule.
Yes, the offside.
The offside.
I never knew. I never knew. And so thank you. I'm Team Glennon here on this one. And,
totally.
And that's what, you know, this podcast, the reason I wanted to make it is I love athletes, and in my own athletic endeavors, I've learned so much wisdom from those experiences. I've been inspired by people who are champions like you. But what's really interesting to me is the story inside. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why I led off with like, you know, okay, you have all these accolades, but what do you care about? You know, what was your achievement? And you mentioned earlier in our conversation that the last few years you've really been, you know, confronting your dark side or aspects of your darkest self. Sure. And I feel like, you know, part of that is, of course, you're getting older. We do become more able to do that. But also, as you said, you know, for the first time, you feel really seen by someone. And in this relationship with Glennon, it's like, you're safe to do that. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, what have you been exploring? What have you learned about yourself in these middle passage years?
Good question. Well, my brother died 2 years ago.
I know. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. That was really a rough time. Mm-hmm. And yet I felt like it was an important moment for me because I've always had this outsized fear of death, even though I lived a very risky younger life. Took
Didn't
a lot
we
of
all?
risks. Yeah. But now that I'm getting a little bit older, a little bit more wiser, I have to actually confront this fear because I'm getting closer. Every single day I'm getting closer to the end. And who knows when that comes, but I really want to be prepared for that time. And I think that these dark parts of ourselves, our culture, especially in America, we don't give enough space to honor the dark parts of ourselves. It's all the glitz and the glam and the shiny and the awards and the this and that. And I don't know, like some of the best conversations I've ever had in my life have been about mortality and dying and what does this all mean here? Because I have committed my whole life to living what I think is a meaningful life. And I know everybody has their own definition of that. And so me to be able to have been given space to explore my darkness. And I'm not saying like evil darkness. I'm saying like
hard things.
Yeah, like I've been obsessed with joy and excitement and enthusiasm my whole life. But what that means is that I underdeveloped some of these skills to be able to actually manage some of the anger or some of the sadness and some of the depression that can come in. And so when it does, because we are human after all, I'm not able to process that stuff through my body, right? I avoid it, I deny it, or back in the day, I would just drink it down, right? And so learning to sit with some of this uncomfortable stuff, and then also watching your partner over the years sometimes also sit with some uncomfortable stuff. There is nothing, like you said earlier, there is nothing like watching a loved one suffer. And the sincere knowing that there is actually nothing you can do.
So hard. And also your own suffering.
Yes.
I'm curious, your brother, Peter, was his death the first time in your life that you lost somebody really close to you?
Yeah. I've lost a few people, grandparents and whatnot, but this was,
a tragic death.
This was tragic.
Yeah.
And tragic in more ways than I can even explain in the moment. But, he has 3 kids, all of which are incredible athletes. They play lacrosse. One plays lacrosse right now at UNC. The youngest is going to play lacrosse in next year at Duke. And my brother, the oldest, is an accountant and played soccer at St. Bonaventure. And so these 3 kids were like sports guys. And my brother Peter was like the sports dad.
Right.
He was the guy who took them everywhere, took them to every hockey tournament, took them to every lacrosse game, to all their soccer games. And he suffered a lot because of it, because he had to get off of work. He was always on the road. And so he dedicated so much of himself to this thing that these kids are now thriving in, that the biggest heartbreak that I have around it is that he doesn't get to be in this dimension experiencing it with them.
When somebody dies too young, I always say, it's like my mom who died at 45. I always say it's like the loss that keeps on losing.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that I haven't also learned a lot from that experience. But it is like, when I had kids, I didn't have my mother. When I published my first book, I didn't have my mother. When I moved into middle age myself, I don't have my mother to talk to about these things. And that is true with your brother and his kids too, where those losses pile on, to each other. And one thing I know, you spend a lot of time on your beautiful podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, talking about hard things.
Yeah.
But there is such a difference between talking about grief and intellectually understanding grief, and even emotionally having a lot of compassion for somebody who has experienced loss, and then grieving, actually being in grief yourself.
Yeah.
And I wonder what your experience of that journey has been over these past couple of years, traveling through it.
I think there's been a lot of interesting things that have kind of peeked its little head up. A couple things. One, grief is not something that shows up and then goes away. It's just something that you have to learn to live with. It can show up at the most inopportune times or random times. Like there's no knowing when a thought or an experience is going to make you feel the train hit again. When this grief showed up, at the time, I think I was probably 7 or 8 years sober. So did all of the unprocessed grief throughout my entire life came.
Absolutely.
And that was a fuck ton of sadness. And kind of there was this weird thing that was happening in my body at the time too, that I was like, I kind of felt protective over the Peter grief versus all the other stuff. Like I wanted to compartmentalize it in a way because I didn't want it to get all mixed in together. But once I started embrace it as something that is going to be part of my life forever, then the piercing acute pain started to subside. And I started to be able to believe that I could live with it. And you know, every single first thing that happens, you're right. Like you know, my nephew, my brother's son, Brady, he went over and played for the U20 men's national team, and represented them in South Korea this last summer. And I just couldn't stop crying for the entire first game. Not only because it meant so much to me because of my history with Team USA, but how much I know it meant to my brother. That, like, I always knew that he really respected me so much and he loved cheering for me in USA. And so to know that he wasn't allegedly so here to watch his son play for Team USA, you know, it just floored me. And then I'll say this last thing. One thing that surprises me about losing a loved one in a tragic way like I did is there was the year mark that I was just like really focused on. I was like, I just got to get to the first year. And then I felt like I was going to be okay.
Right.
But this weird thing happened in the first year is that I felt totally the same the day after, right? The day after the year clicked over. And I noticed that people stopped asking me about him. And that felt like a second grieving.
Of course.
It feels like a second injury in a way. So I actually had to tell Glennon, I just said, you know, I want you to talk about him and bring his name up every once in a while, because I feel awkward. Like, I don't want to just bring his name up out of the blue and make you feel like, oh, we're talking about your brother. You know what I mean? So I had to ask permission for her to like bring him up every once in a while. Or did that make you think of Peter? Like, that made me think of Peter.
Yeah.
Like, I embrace that kind of experience because I don't want to forget.
Absolutely. I mean, I think everyone listening to this who has experienced grief relates to that, because I do think that there is this weird thing that happens in our culture. It's like, you know, let's not mention this person because we'll upset the griever.
That's
and
right.
instead, what upsets the griever is if we erase that person they love. I mean, I named my daughter Bobby after my mom, Bobby, in part because I wanted that word back in my life. I wanted that name. I wanted people to say her name. Yeah. And I wanted to, I wanted to tell the story of my mother and our love and her life, you know, not just in I obviously have done that in my work, but just I want to bring her into the conversation. I think that's a really true and powerful, you know, balm. The way, you know, people are always like, what can I do to help? It's like, hey, just ask me about Peter. I've loved hearing you talk about him because, you know, I do think that one of the things I want to say when you describe being at that game and how much it would have meant for him to be there, I hope I can console you a little bit by saying, you know, yesterday was the 35th anniversary of my mom's death, which means that she's been dead way longer in my life than she was alive. She died when I was 22. And I feel her with me. You know, yesterday on the anniversary, I just thought, I just tried to, get my mom inside of me. I took that breath and I thought, come to me. And she was there. And I do think that Peter is there with his kids. He's there with you. He's there with everyone who loved him truly and who was truly loved by him. And I think that is the only place we can go to survive when it comes to losing people who are essential to us.
True.
Is that we know that they are always with us, even when they're gone.
Yeah.
It's both and, right?
It's both and.
It doesn't erase the tears
That's
and
right.
the sorrow. And yet it's a deeper truth that helps us go on.
So true. And I love that. Like, one of the best things that ever happened around this is it taught me a lot about how I wanted to show up for anybody who I know that could potentially go through this kind of experience. And one of my friends who had recently lost her mother to kind of a tragic accident, she sent me a text. And in the text, she said, when my mother passed away, some of the most important things that people did to me was tell me stories that I didn't know about her. Mm-hmm. And so she told me this story about my brother that I had never heard. And it just it brought him into life again, into my life. And it made a new memory, a memory that I had to actually envision and make up in a way. Mm-hmm. And so when you don't know what to say, because everybody knows that feeling, I don't know what to say. I'm just going to say nothing. My advice is the opposite. If you don't know what to say, just say that. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm here. That's
it. And I always think better the friend who said the kind of wrong thing than the friend who said nothing at all.
Yeah, 100%.
I know I'm not alone when I say I look to you as such a leader when it comes to speaking truth to power and leading with love and kindness on a world stage, speaking to the issues of the day. And you've been an inspiration to me, which I'm not alone. A lot of us are dazzled by you, not just because you're damn good at soccer. So thank you for that. I want to end with one last question.
Okay.
I feel like, we are talking, metaphorical mountains here.
Yeah.
What's the next mountain that you either have to climb or want to climb?
Well, I'm at a point in my career where I only want to do work with people that I like and love. When Glennon and I were deciding who we wanted to bring to our wedding, that was a determining factor. We wanted to be able to say that we liked and loved every person there. And I don't want, I want to leave this earth definitely better than I found it. And every avenue and every industry I find myself in, there is still so much more work to be done, right? And so women's sports is clearly having a moment, but I think what people are forgetting is that there are a lot of other sports out there other than women's basketball and women's soccer.
Yeah.
And a lot of these other sports are in the exact same place that women's soccer was 20 years ago when I was playing. And so part of this next mountain that I'm hoping to die on in some way is to make sure that more women's sports have more resources to be able to thrive, and not just survive, but thrive. We're finding that's becoming more true with women's hockey, PWHL, with love volleyball, lots of women's sports leagues. I mean, flag football is coming into the picture. And I think it's important that as we continue to talk about women's sports, how have the women's basketball teams and the women's soccer teams become so popular, right? And it's because they've had these really intense moments where they were able to make this big virtual splash in the world, that they could make a name for itself. Well, you have to ask the question, why did that happen? okay, the media, television put them on air. And this was being kind of guided and led by all the generations of women's soccer teams, of national team captains and players who have been fighting for more media marketing views, for more money, for more resources, equality, all of that, right?
Right.
And in order to get all of these other sports the kind of awareness that they deserve, we got to get more women in media talking about women's sports. So that is the thing that I am relentless about right now. And
you're doing that through your other podcast, which I also love. Welcome to the Party.
Yes.
I mean, talk about this. I mean, you have really, they're very opposite vibes. I mean, there is, of course, a thread of like, it's about conversation. It's about celebration. But, you know, one is about hard things and one is about really celebrating just exactly what you're talking about. Welcome to the Party. You co-host with, well, first of all, let's just say this always just Billie Jean King.
Yeah.
You know, she's awesome. And Julie Foudy, who you played soccer with, right? You guys were teammates.
Yep.
And you guys are just delightful. And you've taught me here again a lot about sports just by expanding that conversation.
Yeah. I think this next part of my life, you know, I've done a lot of hard things with the We Can Do Hard Things podcast. And I love the Pod Squad, and I love what we've been able to build. I also really missed women's sports, and I did need to take a break. I did need to figure out what it was about women's sports that I loved. Mm-hmm. And that is what I'm trying to build. That is what I want to get back into. Women's sports is not just having a moment because women's sports just got good. Women's sports has always been good. It's just that now the business world, corporate America, they are not only seeing a return on investment, but they're seeing it as a major asset class to need to hold a share of or get equity in, which is totally game-changing worlds for these leagues, right? And so I think about the next step, the next level of these women's sports leagues, that the valuations and the popularity, like they're going to get more media attention, right? But when you look at it from the lens of who is telling the stories about these women, it has to be women who know what it's like. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think it's just been so fun to work with Billie and Julie on our show, because, you know, I see this thing becoming more of like a news source also, right? Mm-hmm. On social media. I see this thing becoming a place where other retired athletes can come and have their own shows, right? That they own the IP of their own shows. And I think that the good news is that We Can Do Hard Things has given us the opportunity to be able to do that. Glenn and I own our own production company, and we produce these two shows together, mm-hmm. As like one production company that Amanda Doyle, Glennon's sister, my sister-in-law, we all own together.
What love.
Yeah, and look, like we just want to do good work with good people forevermore, and good things will happen.
And that's what you're doing. And I thank you so much for this conversation, Abby. You always fill my heart. You always fill my heart with your wisdom, and you make me laugh, and you give me hope that someday people will know how to load the dishwasher correctly if we keep doing our work, just one day at a time, one step at a time.
Yes. One day.
And I'll be I'm walking right alongside you, dear heart, as we ascend this mountain, telling better stories about the things that women do in sport and in life.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate that. You are the absolute best. I'm going to have you on our podcast at some point in the near future. So be ready for the email.
I'd love that. Happy trails. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thanks for listening. If you would like to submit a letter seeking advice, please send it to me at deardearsugar@gmail.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Happy trails, and I will see you next week. Mind Over Mountain with Cheryl Strayed is an iHeart Women's Sports production, produced by Brittany Brown and Rodney Brown of Barbara Jean Productions. Supervising producer is Kaylin West at Realm. Associate producer, Amaya Brathwaite. Our executive producers are Molly Barton, Jerry Carita, Grace Fuse, and Jesse Katz. Our theme song is composed by Gramoscope Music. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Happy trails, and I'll see you next week.